Moving on to business from the city manager. Mr. Manager, anything?
Mayor, I really don't want to get into the habit of just kind of every meeting responding to everything people say, because people come, they express their opinion, and that's fine. But there were a few things that were said that I think, out of fairness to our police officers, need to be responded to. First of all, it was the leadership of our police department that there was a reference to some police officer that had done some wrongdoing, and the reason we know that is because the police department investigated and fired the police officer, and then the case went to arbitration, and then the city defended it with our city attorneys and our city police department and HR department defended it in arbitration, and we won the arbitration. So that's what happened, and it's not, we didn't find out about it because we didn't have body cameras. Whether you should have body cameras or not is a separate issue to the issue with the police officer was something that the police chief recommended termination, and there was termination, and the police officer doesn't work here anymore. So that's that issue, which I thought we should correct the record on. The other piece is the whole question of why didn't we add dispatchers? Why don't we add more police officers? In fact, you have made reference tonight about every city department here is waiting in line for more staff. And so the reason why none of that has happened is because we haven't had a tax increase in a long, long time here because nobody wanted a tax increase. Nobody on any dais that I've sat on here, in another city, throughout all of South Florida, most elected bodies have not supported tax increases because the public hasn't wanted that. So if you don't increase your revenues, and in this city, we've gone from a population of 40,000 to over 70,000 in about 15 years. And if you don't have increases in revenues and you have demand for staff, well, then what you have to do is try to hold as best as you can. And so each and every department during the budget process has done everything they can to hold as best as they can. If there's an issue that is pressing, we've come to you, but for the most part, every budget cycle, we've done the best we can with limited resources. Would we like a lot more resources? Well, it's not us that like the resources. It's the fact that you go from 40,000 to 70,000. That's a lot more people that need service. So the idea of coming up here and condemning a police chief because he did the best he could to hold on, and then at some point he couldn't hold on anymore, and that's why we brought it here. The accusations from previous meetings were, why do you keep coming back with budget amendments? You're changing the budget all the time. Those were all carryovers, and they were accounting. There was no, let's add a whole lot more staff. And I'll tell you right now, it is not our intention to come back each meeting, and because the department has additional needs, we're going to go outside of the budget process. On the other hand, there are certain times where you have to say, we really can't wait any longer. And when people dial 911 for emergencies, we just can't hold on anymore. So we don't like to bring additional spending like this to you mid-year, but and it's not like nobody knew that there was an issue. There's an issue in every department, which is we have a lot more population and we don't have enough staff. And everybody knows this. And so this is not about some bumbling police department that doesn't know what's going on. That's the furthest thing from the truth. What is true is every department is working their tails off to try to provide the best service they can with limited resources because people haven't wanted a tax increase. Oh, and by the way, property values at the height of the market, if you add all them up, added every single one up, you counted every property value was about $4 billion. And then the market crashed and it went down to $1.8 billion. So when that happens, revenues go down. And so I just want to make sure we put things into perspective because we had a little sliver of opinion, boiling points and terrible, horrible. None of that is true. You have dedicated employees that are trying their best to provide the best service they can. And as far as the city attorneys are concerned, when I just find it somewhat amusing that an individual who doesn't even live in the city comes here after having filed all kinds of lawsuits, which we, of course, have to defend. And then when the bill racks up, then the question is, why are you spending so much on lawyers? I just find that hilarious. And the best way to not rack up all those expenses, if this individual is so concerned about our legal bills, of course, he doesn't live in the city, he doesn't pay property taxes here in Homestead, but he's so concerned about our legal bills. Well, one way to alleviate that concern is not to continue to sue the city, and not just this city. I don't know, I could pull out the list of how many police departments he's sued, the state attorney he's sued, how many individuals he's sued personally. I could go right down the list. And by the way, he comes here every month, and he doesn't even live in the city. And so this whole narrative about, oh, how terrible it is that we spend all this money on legal fees, well, when all of this is done and we count up all the victories, it's a shame that we have to defend all this stuff, but that's the system that we live in. And so I hate to do this because I know what's going to happen next is the little videos are going to get clipped up, from this meeting, and we're going to get the blogs going again, and we're going to put the little captions there, and of course we'll sliver the personal attacks against council people and against staff and all the others that were smeared tonight. I would just say this to all of you who were wondering, like, geez, and I wondered, should I say something, should I not? I only said it only for you all who feel badly. And I just say this, don't feel badly. This is their First Amendment right. Even if they come up and they smear, they have their 3 minutes. So try to be as patient as you can. And I know some of you were the recipients of the smears tonight. And I know you're elected officials and you kind of figure, geez, do I say something? Do I not say something? I felt I at least should say something on behalf of everybody. And to the public, I just say, keep in context what you heard here, because police officers that were smeared tonight, because it wasn't just the one that was fired, it was basically the narrative that our police officers are so bad and so horrible and so terrible and so corrupt that, we need to do something dramatic because the pot is boiling over. I would just say most people know that that's not true. And police officers just hang in there because they go out there and they do their job and they risk their lives. And no government is perfect, no police department is perfect, but everybody here does the best they can possibly do to provide services with limited resources. And like I said, I'm sorry I even had a comment, but I felt like I had, because so many people this time had been smeared. I figured I should at least speak on behalf of everyone else, so this way the lightning will come to this rod instead of all you all, because just get ready for the blogs. They're coming next.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. Very well said. Very well said. Thank you for interjecting. Mr. attorney, anything from the attorney? You sure?
I'd like to thank the manager, but that's about it.
Okay. Well, thank you.